A break. Let's start that conversation on State of the Nation. We're talking about all matters, politics, and everything in between. Let me introduce my guest one more time, beginning from my left. Professor Tom Ojienda is here, Senior Counsel and also Senate Kisumu aspirant. Thank you so much for coming in. We also have Kipruto Arap Kirwa, who's the Deputy Chair UDA. Asante sana for coming in. And Professor Adams Olo, who's a political commentator. Asante sana for coming in as well. Let's start off with the Daily Nation front page. And Professor Olo, I'll start with you on this. So, to dump or to court, man at a crossroads. With his single-minded approach to deal-making, Kalonzo Musyoka is disrupting the political rule-book and kicking up quite a storm. But what value does he bring to the table, and is he worth fighting for? Before we get into the value of that, Prof, is this a political strategy from where you stand, or is it just pure indecision from the Kalonzo Musyoka side?
I think it's both. If you go back to Kalonzo Musyoka, and in terms of what determines what role he feels he should play, you go back to 2007. You remember in 2007, he was initially with what later became the Pentagon in what was known as ODM Kenya. And when the intrigues within ODM Kenya could not be resolved, the other wing of the Pentagon, led by Raila Odinga, went and negotiated with the lawyer Mugambi and took over ODM. So now you had two oranges, ODM and ODM Kenya. At that point, then PNU, according to Joe Hamisi, in his book, he says that the PNU wing, the state basically, reached out to Kalonzo. Initially, he was to join them, but I think after the Uhuru Park rally, which partly the state contributed in making a huge rally, he decided he was going straight to the ballot. And you can see that that action made him now a player with his votes, to the extent that when there was a dispute between ODM and PNU, PNU reached out to him and made him a vice president. Fast track that to now, especially when you look at 2013 and 2017, in which in his negotiations with the ODM leader, he negotiated for himself the deputy president's position. And come 2022, as Azimio was being formed and OCA also was in place, when negotiations started, basically Kalonzo Musyoka was of the view that the least he could take was the deputy president's decision. But he was coming into Azimio at a time that ODM and Jubilee also had already had informal, you can say, discussions and even agreements maybe. And therefore, to that extent, the deputy president's position looks like it was not available to him. And to that extent, with the vote bank that he has, it's both, it's ping-pong from both indecision and also strategic positioning. If you ask me, especially the way the Daily Nation, the way they have put it, Kalonzo Musyoka is still looking at the window until the end of the month to make the final decision. Because although Dan Maanzo said he was going to court, he hasn't gone to court yet. And therefore, the possibility of him still coming to Azimio to take the chief minister position, which so far nobody's being given, it's still available.
Okay. Professor Ojienda, has he been treated fairly, knowing that he got into the political scene at only 32 in 1985, rose all the way to the vice president, has been a co-principal before in almost a similar formation? Has Kalonzo been treated fairly in the Azimio La Umoja coalition?
I think, Trevor, if there's a person who has been twice and perhaps thrice lucky in politics, it is Kalonzo Musyoka. I say so because having run twice with Baba, and of course from what we know now, they won, but they were not able to assume the presidency and vice presidency respectively. Kalonzo has been given the opportunity to organize cabinet together with the president. Remember, they were initially in Oka. Oka was wooed by Azimio, One Kenya, and then we eventually had the deed of agreement for Azimio, La Umoja, One Kenya coalition, duly formed under Section 10A of the Political Parties Amendment Act 2021. Now, that being the case, Kalonzo knew that as one of the candidates to the deputy president for Raila Amolo Odinga, he presented himself for the interview. There are 11, for the avoidance of doubt, there were 11 applicants, and 11 leading politicians presented themselves for interview. I mean, if you present yourself for an interview, you cannot come back and then say that it is either me or the highway. You make a choice to go for an interview, you make a choice either to be selected or not to be selected. In my view, His Excellency Raila Amolo Odinga has done so well by offering Kalonzo the plum position in cabinet, not just as a chief minister, but to organize cabinet. Remember, Kalonzo's designation as the chief cabinet secretary will not even involve a constitutional amendment.
Yeah.
Unlike what I saw for in the Kirua's Kenya Kwanza coalition, where you need to have an amendment to the National Accord and Reconciliation, or the Constitution essentially, to give Mudavadi's position. I think Kalonzo has a good deal. He will enjoy 20% of cabinet appointments. If there are 44 cabinet positions, that's about almost 6 positions or 8 positions in cabinet. That is a very, very good deal.
Yeah.
He has infrastructural development that is set out for Masii and Masinga. And clearly, Kalonzo's benefit is for the entire Ukambani region. Let me just put this into perspective. In the last election, when Kalonzo reigned with Raila, he delivered about, in the last election, the Ukambani region delivered about 1.9 million votes to Raila Amolo Odinga. That was a bit higher than the Nyanza region that gave about 1.6 million votes. If you look at the vote basket, Machakos is about over 700,000 registered votes now. I think Kalonzo is looking at that region, as Adams has said, and perhaps thinking that he can run away and force a rerun after the first run if there's no clear winner. But that is not possible, given what I see now. The opinion polls show that Raila is leading at 39%. Kalonzo has a paltry 2%. I would advise His Excellency Kalonzo, by the way, he's a senior counsel. We're in the same club of senior counsel. We are just a few. We're about 50. Yeah. Kalonzo is one of us. I would advise him, as senior counsel, to join the other league where senior counsel Martha Karua belongs, where she's deputy president. We can have 2 senior counsel in government.
Okay, we'll get to that because I see you have the deed of agreement here. That deal you're talking about, is it?
Yes, I have it in this is the Azimio La Umoja One Kenya deed of agreement.
Yeah, the chief cabinet minister position, is it there?
It is not here.
I'm getting information that he wants it in that agreement.
It is not in this. The time frame for depositing this agreement under the Act was 120 days before elections, and strictly speaking, these terms were done by 9th of May. This agreement was signed. Remember, this deed of agreement is the one that was signed on the 12th of March at KICC. So unless you amend, or parties agree to amend, and remember the clause, I look at the clauses here, 24, all coalition partners must agree to any amendment of the deed of agreement.
Yeah.
But I think once Raila Amolo Odinga has openly, expressly, publicly, overtly declared that Kalonzo shall be chief minister, he shall be chief minister.
All right. You know, on your side is calling this deceit. They're saying this is political deceit, what is happening to Kalonzo. Why?
Well, I've not said it.
It's not you, your party affiliate.
Well, I'm not their spokesperson.
Yeah.
I'm just the deputy chair of the party. Mm-hmm. But on these particular issues, we've seen a lot of funny moves since 2002, where we signed at the summit, 8 of us, an agreement to work in certain ways. But at times agreements are overtaken by events. It may not be entirely true that Kalonzo is just making noise. Some of the issues are well spoken through body language, and at times people ignore those they believe may have less weight than the rest. And this may explain why he's trying to leverage on the numbers that he has. Maybe Ukambani may have 1.9 million votes, but if he was properly mobilized, Kalonzo can go to 2.5 million votes. This is my take, because Mombasa, Kwale, there are still sizable followers of Wiper. The second issue is that it may not be entirely true what Professor Ojenda said. We do not have to amend the constitution for Musalia Mudavadi to get a position in cabinet as a chief minister, because that is provided, and our party leader pronounced himself to that particular position, that we do not have to amend the constitution. We can still play within the ambit of the current constitution to get that position anchored in the law. And therefore, I strongly believe the Kalonzo debacle is an issue that we must improve our manners as politicians. We must improve our hygiene, because you realize even the issue of independent candidates speaks volumes about the behavior of politicians in Kenya.
Yeah.
We may not like it, but I feel we strongly still need to improve the way we handle each other as colleagues, as friends, and as also political players.
Okay. Yeah. Professor Lo, what would be the impact of Kalonzo running for president up to the end?
I think, look at it this way, and I think both Professor Ojenda and Kipruta Rapkiro are bringing it out. If you look at, since 2002, there has been a pattern, although 2013 and 2017 were a little bit different, in which you had two major parties or coalitions. Then you'll have what you guys in the media have called a donkey. So that if you go to 2002, there was NAC, there was KANU, then there was the donkey Ford people. If you go to 2007, there was ODM, there was PNU, then there was the donkey ODM Kenya that later became Wiper. If you go to 2013 and 2017, 2013, there was the broader Jubilee coalition, and there was the CORD coalition. Then you had the Amani of Musalia Mudavadi as a donkey. In 2017, I think there was no donkey. Third Way was there, but it was way, I don't know what you guys would call it, so that it was just Jubilee and NASA.
Yeah.
Now, one would think that were Kalonzo to stay out of Azimio, that donkey pattern would obtain. But I think one should not be sure of that.
Yeah.
I think that in both Nyachai and Kalonzo's case in 2002 and 2007, their backyards, which was basically their communities, voting for them, there was an expectation that they had a chance. So that when that sympathizer of Nyachai went to the ballot paper, in their own assessment, wrong as it was, they thought they had a chance. And remember that time, the provision of 50% plus one was not there, because that comes with the 2010 Constitution.
Yeah.
This time round, if you go for that donkey role, then your assumption is that none of the two protagonists will get 50% plus one, and then you bargain. But as Professor Jenda was saying, there's no guarantee of that, because I believe that if I was in his backyard and I'm a voter there, would I simply go and vote for Kalonzo and hope? I know that Kalonzo is not going to make it, but I'm hoping that none of the contestants gets 50%. Because the vibe we are hearing is that there's a lot of pressure on him by professionals from his backyard that, hey, in politics, don't leave what is already there. Go take it. And even from that chief minister position, because I think...
But he wants a guarantee. He wants it written.
He wants a guarantee, and that's the other thing I can also talk about. Generally in terms of coalition. You see, if you go, and I think Pruto Kirwa referred to it, if you go to parliamentary systems, then mostly you'll form post-election coalitions. Because you go, and then you look at what numbers do I have? I don't have enough numbers to form a government. I go, okay, Trevor, I'm not able to form a government. I can see you have 10 seats there. Come, we form a government. And we negotiate based on what is evident.
That is post-election.
That is post-election. The problem with presidential systems, as we have, is that you end up crafting or potentially having a power-sharing arrangement that is not based on real data. And that's why you can see Kenya Kwanza is telling Davidi, for you to get this premier cabinet secretary, you must get 70%. Because you don't have real data of what finally he or she is going to bring to the table. And if you go to NASA and even Jubilee, then you'll find that there was the agreement, as the one like Professor Jenda has. Then there was a separate document on power sharing. Now, Kenya Kwanza has chosen to go that route, in which they have the agreement and they have the power sharing agreement also together. I think Azimio has decided that no, let's have the agreement and then let's have the power sharing agreement when we can weigh, hey, you, UDM, what has you brought on the table? You, MDG, what has you brought on the table? That's what will determine what you get. And I think that's where Kalonzo based, and you see he was a summit member, he can tell you that there was an MOU. And immediately, and there were two, in fact. And he's saying that, and in any way, and maybe Professor Jenda, who's a senior counsel, can maybe talk on this. As a scholars, again, we look at, and this is out there, and I think this is what is disturbing both sides of the political divide, that in a presidential system, in which constitutionally executive power lies with the president, even if you have that power sharing agreement the way they have, if William Ruto, once he's in power, chooses not to implement him, which one is bigger, the Constitution or that power-sharing agreement, in terms of enforcement? And I think those are the challenges that now have to be solved, as Professor Jenda is saying, politically and in good faith.
So that means even having it written down is not a guarantee.
It's not a guarantee.
And Prof, but doesn't Kalonzo have a point wanting to have this on paper? Because politics is a game of deceit.
I think he's coming from a past where he has been disappointed. I think that is what defines what he's saying, that he wants everything written down before the election and before power. But you know, power is a very evasive. They're putting onto paper, implementing what is put onto paper is a function of the doctrine of uberrimai fides, good faith, that there must be good faith on the part of the politicians, on the part of the coalition partners. Remember, Azimio la Umoja, One Kenya Alliance, One Kenya Coalition has 26 political parties. Yeah. None of the other 25 or 20 minions have spoken to any stake in the coalition. They are sitting pretty and waiting for government to be formed. Yeah. None has complained. It is only Kalonzo who is shouting his voice hoarse at every opportunity. Now that raises a concern that perhaps Kalonzo is saying, I've previously gone through this, I need to be sure. But again, as Adam says, as Prof says, the overriding obligation of the president to the republic does not subjugate his constitutional authority to any coalition agreement, nay any written document that Kalonzo may want. Yeah. I think it is the good faith, it is the faith in your coalition. And I think what Kalonzo should focus on is working hard to deliver the Ukambani vote to the coalition. I believe that it is simply a matter of time. Okay. The 10 days time, Trevor, and you can quote me. Last week I said that in about 2 weeks, Raila would lead Ruto by 4 points. It has happened today. You can see the TIFA polls. He's 4 points ahead of Ruto. And that will continue until the election. Now,
you have a prophet.
on this question of Kalonzo, I will tell you this. Yeah. In 10 days or in the 11 days, Kalonzo will come back to Azimio la Umoja, One Kenya Alliance. I'm sure that as senior counsel, he's listening to us. Kalonzo, please come back.
Is it prudent to simply rely on goodwill from the politicians and the political side?
Well, it's my hope that increasingly we are going to learn to be good people. Otherwise, I strongly believe that since independence, many people have been thrown under the bus. With the past vice president, Raila's father, was thrown under the bus by the team that he assisted to win power in 1963, and many other cases that I may not care to remember. But on the issue of Kalonzo, Prof here is not a prophet. It was obvious from the beginning. When I saw Gideon with Kalonzo, I knew this is a game that is likely to be, go there, take care of him, make sure that he does not go to Kenya Kwanza. Because if he came to Kenya Kwanza, it could be game shot. Even some of these statistics would not have been anything to rely, because that was going to give us a strong lead against our brother and our sister on the other side. So I'm sure Gideon had an assignment. And Gideon, I know you are doing a very good assignment. Continue doing it.
Okay. I have to take a quick break. When you come back, let's talk about these numbers for a bit. And then numbers on both sides. First of all, there's a 39%. This is a new TIFA poll. We'll find out from a guest if they believe these polls. And then there's more than 38 independent presidential candidates who've been gazetted by IBC. We'll talk about that in just a bit. We'd like to hear from you as well. At Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV, can you use the hashtag Daybreak? We're sampling some of your views right after this break. All right? See you shortly.